TG Geeks, episode 59, February 8th, 2016. In brightest day, in blackest night, let us away to interview delight. Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror genre, you name it, we talk about it. I'm Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from thawed-out TG Squared Studios in lovely Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from, my code name is the Gay Geek, Phoenix, Arizona.
And we have a really exciting interview with an up-and-coming author, and we're going to get right to it. And today we have joining us Mr. Jonathan Latt. He is an author of a book called The Geek. So we're going to talk to him today about that book and many other things. So welcome, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's really fun to be here.
Our pleasure.
Yes, so why don't you tell us about who you are to help our audience understand who you are, and then we'll launch in and
go from there.
Go from there, yeah.
Okay. My name is Jonathan Latt. I am a writer. Been fortunate enough to make a living as a writer for the past 16 going on 17 years. I am a lifelong nerd, geek, and dork. And I been working in the entertainment industry in some capacity or another since I was 20.
Wow.
So I used to be what's known as a packaging agent. I sold TV shows. And then a client of mine actually had me come work for him as a producer and sort of the development guy. And we were doing reality shows, but we were doing, before the crazy reality shows, we were doing like documentary television. And he had said to me,
True reality shows.
True reality shows. And he had said to me at one point, he said, you write all our treatments, you develop all our shows, you should write a drama. And it had never really occurred to me to write a drama. And back in this time, this was the late 90s, you were really pigeonholed in the sense of, if you wrote comedies, that's all people really thought of you as. And if you did documentaries, no one wanted to hear a drama from you. And I had told him that. And he said, well, go ahead and write it. And I had this idea for, 8-9 years sort of poking around in my head. So I wrote it. And that was the most fun I had ever. And I quit.
Wow.
and said, I really appreciate you pushing me to do this. I quit. I'm going to go try and be a writer. And I've been doing it ever since. And I was very fortunate that the first thing I ever wrote got optioned.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
And from there, it's just been, which sounds nice. I always tell people, you can make a very decent living as a writer getting absolutely nothing on the air, which is great,
So is that what you've been doing as far as your writing? I understood this was The Geek was your first book. Is that true or not?
The Geek is absolutely my first novel.
Okay.
The Geek actually, it's sort of been a long road in the sense that The Geek was actually the second thing I ever came up with, and this was in 1999, and so that was before comic book stuff. Comic book stuff was starting to come into the fore, but it still wasn't as respected as it is now. And I wanted and I was much younger. I was going into 30 years old, and I wanted a live action comic book, an original live action comic book. It was developed as a very 9 p.m. friendly show, and it got optioned and went into development, never got picked up. And then after a couple of years, the rights reverted back to me, and it got optioned again, and then never went anywhere. And then the rights came back to me, and then it got optioned as a feature film.
Wow.
Never went anywhere. And then the rights reverted back to me. And then a few years ago, a friend of mine who we had a show in development at Fox about a long time ago. And he's been a huge supporter of mine. His name's Christopher May, and he's a really good guy. And he called me up out of the blue, and he said, "Don't be mad." And I'm like, "Oh boy." He said,
That's always the bad sign.
Yeah, and with my life, at least how it used to be, "Don't be mad" was always followed with, "I stole your credit card, I crashed your car." He said, "Don't be mad. I gave the feature script of The Geek to a publisher friend of mine, and they'd like to talk to you about turning it into a book."
Wow.
Why would I be mad? That's like the opposite of "don't be mad."
Yeah, exactly.
That's hey, get excited.
Let's turn it into a book, and then we can option it again and make a movie out of it.
Well, and so, yeah, the funny thing was, a lot of things had happened to me during the course of that, of sort of moving on from The Geek and going back and doing the version that you have now. And even though this is going to sound like total hokum and a cliche, but it's really not, which is that, I've changed as a writer, times have changed, and when it came time to start writing the novel, first of all, as I do with everything in my life, I completely underestimated the learning curve and completely overestimated my ability, which I do all the time.
Don't we all?
Yeah. And so I figured, well, how hard can it be from switching from screenplay to prose? It was pretty hard. And I had originally planned on using the screenplay as the bones of the novel. And I got about 175, nearly 200 pages into the novel.
Wow.
And I realized it just doesn't work.
Oh, my gosh.
Doesn't work. And I called the publisher, and I'm like, "I'm going to scrap it and start over." And I did. And I kept all the backstory, all the characters, but I changed the tone completely.
Yeah.
And I really, and this is where it sounds, just like, your usual writer, bull, is that I really do believe this is the best version, the gritty, much more realistic. There's a character named Schmidt in the novel.
Right.
In the TV show, and mind you, I was 29, 30 years old. In the TV show, Schmidt was like half cyborg.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, it was very campy, over the top. And I started doing a lot of research and really looking into this. And part of the challenge for me was, as a writer, and some things happened unintentionally, but Schmidt and then another character, Greta, I really wanted to make them, as three-dimensional as possible, and in some instances kind of likable.
Right.
And then started playing with things like nature versus nurture. How different are our protagonists from the antagonist, and
right.
and it really turned into a dark place. I mean, sometimes, I'll write 8-9 hours a day, and some days you're very cognizant of what you're writing, and some days everything just falls away, and you look up and it's 6 hours later and you've written 35 pages. And on some of those days I would go back and read what I had written, and I would think to myself, I'm really working through some stuff. Like, oh my God, what is wrong with me?
Oh, so there's a lot of therapy involved, basically.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I'm very happy to talk about, a lot of the personal stuff I went through, like when I had to call the publisher and say there's going to be a bit of a delay because I'm in rehab.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that,
I'm not going to be able to talk to you for 30 days because I'm at Betty Ford. And his response was, "Yeah, we're used to dealing with writers." Seriously, that was their response. And they're a very small publisher, and they started off doing self-publishing. And I'm sort of, I think their first or second book, like serious, not a novelty press book. And they've just been, I was literally on the phone with them 5 minutes before we started this podcast, because we're going into a second printing of the book, and they have been just amazing. And so supportive. And so, so this has been a real journey for me. Having said that, now that I've, the book, writing the book made me such a much stronger writer in screenplays.
Right. Well, we fully understand that. I mean, interviewed a number of authors, and one that is local here to us. We're going to see her tomorrow, as a matter of fact. But we've interviewed her 3 times, and she's got 12 books out.
Whoa.
And she also
more than that.
More than that. 12
books of one particular series.
12 books in this one series, but far more books than that. But her writing style, she's all over the board, and she helps writers write and does different seminars and things at Comic-Con, or the different Comic-Cons or the different cons, etc. And it's interesting to hear her talk about writing and hear you say, okay, I got all the way in. And obviously a screenplay is much different than writing a book, because a screenplay has these big nebulous things, that you kind of flesh out because you're seeing the character.
Yeah, a screenplay is about everything that you're going to be seeing on the screen, as opposed to a book where you actually get to peer inside a person's brain.
Exactly. So I don't know. Did we just kind of go off into left field there with you?
No. I mean, what do they say? A book describes and a screenplay shows.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
And that was the thing. And I was using the screenplay and expanding and expounding, but it was really the tone of the screenplay.
Right.
That was just wrong. And so I went, okay, done. And so then, a lot of things happened in this book that made it like 16 hours of labor. At one point, my computer went blue screen of death on me.
Oh dear.
And I lost 85 pages.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was what I like to call a 2-pie day. Because now that I'm not drinking myself into oblivion, the pie is very helpful.
Yeah. But well, I just want to say congratulations to you, and one day at a time. We have lots of friends that are involved in recovery.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I've got let's see, December 22nd was 2 years.
Oh, very good.
Hey.
And so everything's really mellowed out. I'm very, very happy. And it's look, some days you just want to drink, but for most of the time I'm actually pretty good. And I've stopped shoving pie into my mouth because you want to hit those pleasure centers.
Yeah.
Oh, well, if you can't drink, just eat bacon.
Yeah, there you go.
Bacon is the closest thing that makes me believe in God. I am not a religious man, but the pig is a magical animal.
Oh, yeah.
That gives of itself so that we may have delectable meats. Okay. And I certainly appreciate the pig.
Yes.
Okay, so we might as well go ahead and give our thoughts on the
book.
Geek.
Yes. You sent us an advanced copy here, and I will have to say I couldn't put it down.
Neither could I.
I
absolutely loved this book from beginning to end.
Oh, guys, thank you so much.
I loved the way I loved your writing style. I loved the way you told the story, and from the different viewpoints that you told the story, and all of the geeky references, the pop culture references. It was a delight to read.
And I loved the characters.
Yes,
absolutely love the characters. In fact, I was so taken by your lead character Gary that I was reading him and thinking, if this were me in another, this could be me in another life.
That is the nicest thing anyone could say about it. And I'm a little choked up. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you guys liked it. I always am so happy because this is, in one sense, it's sort of wish fulfillment for everybody that ever got a swirly in high school.
Oh my God!
It's terrible wish fulfillment when you read the book, but it is wish fulfillment. But I actually intentionally, I think I go a lot further in describing other characters, but I intentionally. It really went out of my way to make the descriptions of Gary as vague as possible, because I really wanted everyone who reads it to be able to picture themselves.
Right.
There were so many things about Gary that I identified with. The superhero shirts. I'm wearing an Iron Man T-shirt right now.
I'm wearing my Green Lantern T-shirt.
The 501s. I grew up with the 501s. Converse Chucks. Oh God, how many pairs of Converse Chucks do we own between each other, Keith?
Oh, probably 15 or 20.
You guys are my target demo.
And I even wear. Yes, I admit it. At the age of 54, I'm still wearing very thick, soft cotton tube socks.
Yeah, me too. I'm wearing my 501s. I'm wearing my Chucks. And yeah, comfort is key.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If I could wear 501, I could wear 501s. The problem is they're just too damn expensive, and I'm cheap.
Amazon.
So, really?
That's true. That's true.
It's weird that I've gotten to a point in my life where, and not to give Amazon too many plugs, but there is something very cool about being able to buy pants, a box of Abba Zabbas, and a cell phone charger all in one place.
That's true. Yeah. I can't argue with that.
A one-stop shop.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing. I did not own a pair of Chucks until I was 50 years old. In fact, on my 50th birthday, we were headed out to go to Disneyland for my 50th birthday. We stopped at the
there's an outlet mall
at Cabazon or Morongo.
Near Palm Springs.
And I got my first pair of Chucks. It was a pair of high tops. I paid full price for them.
And now it's an addiction.
And now every time we go over there, we have to stop there. And I won't pay full price. I always go to the clearance, and I found some really cool shoes.
I've got like 4 pairs of Chucks.
Yeah, I've got 4 myself.
I've got
Chucks are comfy, man. They're very comfy shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, ours aren't as special as Gary's.
Right.
No,
right.
and I'm like, when I started reading the things that he was
interesting.
able to do with them, I thought, I really wish I knew about this when I was in high school. It would have saved me from so many beatings.
Yeah.
It's funny.
So,
I got to add one other thing on the list, and that is when you. Well, I should point out, Keith started reading the book before I did. Because he doesn't. Your work day usually, Keith, ends a little earlier than mine.
Right.
So you were able to start reading it earlier in the day than I could, and plus I was busy that night. So I started reading it later in the evening, but Keith comes into the room and he starts describing some of the things to me, and you were starting telling me about Gary, what he's wearing. He says he wears Chucks, he's got a Captain America T-shirt, and he's got a Green Lantern belt buckle. And I went, there is your trifecta. Because Green Lantern has historically always been my favorite superhero.
Me too. It was absolutely my favorite growing up. The Hal Jordan stuff that's in the book is, there's a lot of me in the book, not the
I kind of guessed after reading your blog.
Yeah. But yeah, Green Lantern, especially Hal Jordan. There was the Neil Adams run of the Green Lantern, Green Arrow.
Yeah,
sort of
I remember
bros
those.
across the country. And that really had a very deep impact on me, and I read Green Lantern. That was the one book I made sure I had money for every month.
I bought that series religiously too when I was in high school.
We were just talking about that earlier today. As a kid, I never really comic books were not the thing. At least in the little town that I grew up, none of my friends were comic book.
Where'd you grow up?
Muskogee, Oklahoma. So,
oh dear. Yeah.
Oh dear. Yes.
That might be a problem.
Yeah, and so if you add being a geek and in a small town, and being gay.
And what was it? What did you say? It's the trifecta.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but not in a good way.
Not in a good way. So, but I still had the Dungeons and Dragons stuff and all of the geeky nerdiness. I was in the chess club and all of that crap. It's just
we have so got to hang out when you guys come down.
Yeah.
We'll definitely pencil it into our calendar.
The graph paper. And
oh my God!
Graph paper. Wow. Flashback.
The green graph paper, right?
Pardon?
The green graph pad paper.
Graph paper.
Yep.
Yeah, we will go old school.
Wow.
It's gonna get great.
Man,
I'm having huge flashbacks all of a sudden. I'm loving this.
And you said that Tom Baker was when in pre-show he was your first doctor. That was my first doctor.
Yeah, out here in LA, PBS, which is public broadcasting for people listening to this in other parts of the world, out here in LA on Saturday afternoons when I was about, I think, 8 or 9, they would do like a 4-hour block of Doctor Who.
Oh my God.
And it was Tom Baker. And my mom is British. She's an American citizen, but she's British. And so I had been familiar with Doctor Who, but I was still very young, and it blew my mind. And that was my thing. You know, I didn't play sports. I didn't like sports. I still find it boring, except for like blood sports, which is really weird. Like if we had gladiator games, I'd probably have like those Staples box seats, which is terrible. But for the most part, like sports, you know, I don't want to watch sports on TV because if I really, really wanted to, not that I ever would want to, I can go down to the park and play basketball.
Right.
What I can't do is get on a spaceship and or go kill a dragon or something. And so those are the things I always wanted to do. And back in the 70s, that wasn't very popular.
Yeah.
So Doctor Who was this sort of refuge for me. And Tom Baker with his floppy hat and his flowing scarf and, K9.
Oh, my God.
And it was just, and I remember the first time I saw the Daleks, it scared me to death.
Yeah.
And you look back, like I used to have them on DVD. Now you don't need those anymore. And you look back, I'm like, I can't believe this used to scare me, but it was so amazing. My cousin Roger got me the best birthday gift or Christmas gift this year, which was it's a Tom Baker Doctor Who mug.
I saw it on your blog.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's got a hat. The hat covers the keep your tea or your soup warm. I love that thing. I've been using it every day. That's
pretty cool. Now, my first introduction to Doctor Who was at a friend's house, and actually he was a friend that I was introduced through another friend who was the first person I met in my first day of 5th grade, who's still a close friend of ours and actually is flying back to Oklahoma City today after hiking the Grand Canyon. But we were over, Bill and I were over at Kit's house, and it came 10 o'clock PBS, time for Doctor Who, and it was I always want to say Invisible Enemy, but I don't think
that's the first K9 episode.
Yeah, yes, it was Invisible Enemy. And it was one of the worst episodes.
It is.
Ever.
It's pretty crappy. It's horrible.
But it was like I was hooked.
Yeah.
And every Saturday night.
I love it that you saw it on PBS as well. I think that's
awesome. I did too. In fact, my best friend in grade school, I remember he was really excited because he always got the Starlog magazine and my parents never really liked it whenever I would get like the sci-fi magazines or watch science fiction television. I could read a sci-fi novel if it was written by like Heinlein or Clark, because my stepdad would approve of that because they're legitimate. But anything less than that, forget it. So I was always going over to my friend Bill's house and seeing the latest issue of Starlog. And, of course, I kept seeing all these articles on Doctor Who and the time traveling. And I was fascinated with K9. I thought, this robotic dog is just amazing. Yeah. And then he calls me up and he says, Doctor Who, the series, is finally going to be on our local PBS station. So I went over there, and it was on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock in the evening. And it was it was broadcast very old school. We got it once a week.
Yep. Yeah.
One part a week, and I went mental.
You got one episode a week?
Yes.
The one part. And it started with Robot.
Oh, wow.
The very first Tom Baker. So, of course, first thing I'm seeing is John Pertwee regenerate into Tom Baker. And then we're only getting, part 1 on this day. Next week, we'll get part 2. Next week, we'll get part 3. I remember at one point we were watching the Ark in Space. And we finally got the parts 5 and 6 in one shot. And Bill and I were doing happy dance because we're getting 2 parts in one night.
Yeah, I think we got 2 parts. And then they went to whole series. Yeah. And then...
and then finally in another PBS station, we were getting 1 part, but it was every night of the week.
Yep. They did that when they started... They finished Tom Baker, and then they started back around with John Pertwee, and then it was every night.
Oh, wow.
So, and that was early 80s.
Yeah. For me, that would... early 80s, absolutely. That's right. That's when Lionheart finally got the distribution rights for all of the older stuff.
Right. Do you still say you were the Lionheart generation, right, of the distributor?
I believe so.
At the end of every episode, do you go?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Lionheart.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. You guys are good.
Yeah, we're old
We should clarify
and
one.
really geeky.
I should clarify one thing. This you're gonna love this, and this is how Keith and I met.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
We were at a pool party. I'll just say it was just a pool party. We'll just start there.
Long story short, and I had wanted to talk to him, and we talked about the weather, and that didn't work. And
no, it was a very awkward conversation.
So a friend of ours said, "Oh, he likes sci-fi." And I said, "Oh, cool." So I walked outside, and at that time I was smoking, and I lit up a cigarette, and I said, "Oh, darn, I forgot to set my VCR."
Yeah, he didn't realize that he was talking to a real video queen at that moment. So I was sitting down, and I looked at, what were you going to record?
I said, "Well, Babylon 5."
No, actually, he said my favorite science fiction.
favorite science fiction program.
And I went, "What's that?"
I said, "Babylon 5."
Babylon 5, I love that show.
So we started talking, and we talked.
And then we went into
Trek
all the different iterations of Star Trek at that time. And then he pulls out what he thinks is going to be the trump card.
Little did I know, he knows some really obscure sci-fi stuff. Real obscure. Yeah. I said, "Well, I don't know whether you know about this, my favorite science fiction program ever."
And try me.
I said, "Doctor Who."
Now, at this point, he was sitting at a round table right across from me. I almost leapt over the table and said, "Doctor Who, I have almost every episode on videotape."
And I thought, "Oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? I love it."
And I remember thinking, "Oh my God, could he be the one?" And here we are 20 years later.
I think that's awesome. If we can digress just a little
sure.
more, since we're completely off topic anyway, which is great. I have been obsessing over a show that I think I saw once or twice when I was a kid visiting family in England that I found again.
And what's that?
Blake 7.
Blake 7.
You're gonna die about this. I'm on it. I'm part of another podcast called Fusion Patrol, and currently we are alternating between reviewing episodes of Blake 7 and Space 1999.
I love Blake 7 so much more than Space 1999 now. Blake 7 for me, yes. Look, let's take it in context. It was the BBC. It was the late 60s, early 70s.
It was let me see, late 70s, because season 2 was 1980.
Okay, well then the special effects are even worse than they should be.
Oh, they're horrible.
And they're terrible, and everybody looks like they just got out of an ABBA video.
Yep. Especially the women.
Especially the women, and it's horrifying. But when you cut through all that, the writing is pretty darn good. The character stuff, I would love to do, I would love to see someone do it. Like, that is crying out for an update.
It really is, but who the heck do you get to play Avon? I mean, Alan Rickman's dead. He's the only one who could have done Paul Darrow.
I don't know, but I just think I am having so much fun watching this show, and I think it was maybe even the third episode where Brian Blessed, one of the voices ever, who of course we all fell in love with Brian Blessed when he was leading the Hawkmen against Ming in the Flash Gordon movie, and he shows up and I'm like, yep, I'm in. I don't care what happens next, I'm in. Yeah. And if you haven't seen Blake 7, if you're listening to this, go check it out. It's not my fault, but I will apologize for the special effects, but go.
It's a great story. In fact, there are some people who would actually say it's probably one of the most intelligent science fiction shows to come out of England at that time, and I would have to agree.
Yeah, it's
a brilliant show.
Yeah.
So you have to check out his other podcast. It's Fusion Patrol. So
FusionPatrol.com, and go back. We've talked about Man from Atlantis, Ick.
Talked about Children of the Stones.
Children of the Stones. We completely reviewed Star Lost.
And what was the one with David McCallum?
David McCallum? Did we review something? Oh, that's right. Sapphire and Steel.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was about to bring up Sapphire and Steel.
Yeah, I love that show.
I love that show because that was when I would go to England in the summertime with my mom to see my cousins. That was the block, was Blake 7 and Sapphire and Steel.
Wow.
And who doesn't love Joanna Lumley?
Yeah, really.
I don't care. I'm gay, but I think she's gorgeous.
And she has proven that she can do basically everything.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
She's an amazing actress.
Now, let me say something. We can get back on the book.
Okay, go for it.
I'm having a lot of fun talking.
I know, but that's what we were kind of after. We just wanted to have a fun conversation with you.
You said when you said that your mother was British, it made
now that answers a lot of questions.
Yes, because some of your spellings, and some of your turn of phrase are very British. And I just kind of made an assumption that you were a Brit.
Yeah.
Or that you had spent an extensive amount of time in
Britain.
Britain. But then we read your little bio at the end of the book, and there's not really much mention of being in England, so it kind of threw us all for a little bit. But now that you've mentioned your mother, it's like, okay, now I kind of get it.
Makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah. I have been very fortunate to my family made my dad was an American. But they made a big effort when we were younger to go back to England about every other year and see the family. My mom's one of 13 children.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was crazy. And I'm still very, very, I'm very close with all my English relatives. For most of them, it's hard to keep track of them. We're big breeders, and they're everywhere. But so I when I was a kid, we would go back every other year, and I go back every few years and spend a lot of time. Like, I'll spend a few days in London, mainly because it's London. Right. But then I'll go to Bath, and I say Bath instead of Bath because when I say Bath, I can feel my mom smacking me back.
Yeah.
No, it's Bath, you horrible child.
Yes.
And so, I'm very familiar. With Bristol and Bath and London, and so and also my Aunt Mary was a teacher, and she was the one who taught me to read and spell when I was very young. So some of those, like I don't spell airplane AEROPLANE anymore,
right.
Which I guess really annoyed my first and second grade teachers. But some of those spellings they just don't.
Well, like those one that I kept seeing, and it threw me, and now it's dying.
Dying actually was it's so funny that you mentioned that. Dying was actually, some people will say it should be DYING, and it really should. And we are actually fixing that. That's what I was talking with the publisher about. We're about to go into a second print, which is awesome. And so we're actually taking those out and doing DYING. But that was actually a mistake by the proofreader who didn't catch it.
Oh.
And that's fine. It's funny. I've been very, very lucky. I've only gotten one bad review so far. And I say so far because more will come. If you're a writer, you're going to get bad reviews.
You're going to get them, yeah.
And the funny thing was the bad review wasn't as much about my writing as it was about the editing. And this woman on Goodreads, I think actually ended up doing me a favor because she pointed out a couple of things. She probably could have done it in a nicer way, but
in the current version that we have.
Yes.
Really?
I didn't see anything in the editing.
Thing was dying versus dying.
Oh,
there
please.
isn't. We actually went through it again, and there's little things like I had a hyphen between the I and the P in iPod. It's tiny little things, but her big problem was dying versus dying, which again depends on where you go.
Right.
But we're gonna fix them.
Yeah, and the other one that I noticed there was magic with a K.
That is actually,
but that was I felt that was
deliberate.
Specific. Yeah.
That is deliberate because magic with a K denotes the occult.
Right. Exactly.
As opposed to illusion. But that's
and
exactly.
I got that as I came across that word, and it made perfect sense to me, and it didn't even stop me. I just kept right on going as I was doing it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, just finish. Please finish what you're going to say.
I was just going to say, when it comes to stuff, because this is really my, the Geek is almost a departure for what I usually do, which is occult and science fiction and fantasy. But of course, as you can tell from the book, I couldn't help myself. So I very much do, when I say magic, I always use the K to sort of say that, in a sense, I mean the Aleister Crowleyan type of ritual magic, as opposed to Doug Henning or whatever magician is popular.
Right, right.
It's not stage magic.
Right.
Right.
So when you were finally starting to write the book, and you always said, you scrap the screenplay, you're just going to use kind of like, the skeleton of it as a means to help go write it, but you were going to basically start from scratch and write it as a novel instead of trying to adapt it. I'm fascinated with the characters. At this point, when you started doing that, how fully formed were they in your head?
Oh no! All the characters in the book I had, from when all the characters I actually are the same. So I didn't chuck out who they were and their motivations, and the basic story is still the same. I chucked out the screenplay because it was the tone. But I will say this: chucking out the screenplay, like Schmidt and Greta, which are the antagonists, were far more two-dimensional in the screenplay. So those were the ones I probably spent about a month just focusing on. I went through 3 legal pads just because I still do by hand, and then I transfer it to computer. It helps me think. And I went through about 3 legal pads of who they were, what they wanted. There's stuff in the book. There's stuff that in the legal pads that's not in the book. Like, Greta's allergic to asparagus.
Interesting.
But I need those. You know what I mean? Like, I need those details so I feel like they're real.
This is intriguing. One of the things that I'm always fascinated with, especially with writers, is how, like I said, fully formed the characters are, especially by the time the writer is now writing the book. So when you started writing the Geek, you said that the characters are already pretty much fully formed, and especially in the case of Schmidt and Greta, since you had such a really strong idea of who they are by this time, did you find that they started speaking to you?
In what sense do you mean?
Well, we've talked to a couple of authors now, and they said that usually as they're writing, especially when it's characters that they just really intrinsically know in their brain and in their heart, they find that many times the character will, almost like something like schizophrenia, the character will kind of talk to them and said, no, actually, this is what I would do.
I know writers who experience that. I don't experience that. What I tend to experience is for better or for worse, depending on which chunks I'm writing that day, I become like the character.
Interesting.
Okay.
So you inhabit the character. It's more of a method type
the
of.
Inhabits me, so it is.
It's method writing.
Method writing.
It is a little method writing. So there were Schmidt days where I was just a very angry individual, and then there were Pete days where I was just a happy guy.
Yeah.
Just wanted to hang out.
That's
and
interesting.
Please don't tell me that when you were having Mark days that you were speaking with a Southern accent.
I was not, but
thank God.
But
There's something so pretentious about it.
Gotta love Mark, who is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah. I feel that there was a lot more to him than what we saw.
Know. I was
just based on a couple of little things.
Yeah, I was expecting so much more out of him.
Well,
he's fascinating.
Yeah, and that was one of the changes from the feature film, and the feature film, of course, was developed to be a franchise, and the TV series, of course, was developed to go, if you're lucky, 3 to 5 years. So
wow. Mark
originally was going to be, and again, I don't want to do too many spoilers, but Mark originally was in the TV series. Mark ends up being Gary's handler after about season 2.
Interesting.
That actually explains a couple of scenes that happen earlier in the book.
Yes.
But I wanted to keep those scenes in there in the book because it makes Mark, I think, a very intriguing character.
Yes.
and also much more three-dimensional. I didn't.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to make every single character three-dimensional.
Right.
But it was like simple little things, hopefully, that fleshed him out and made him more real, and made their friendship more real.
It did. In fact, as I was reading, there's a beautiful scene, and this is not really giving anything away, where Gary gets to go back to Oak Creek, and there he is hanging out with Mark and Pete, and
they're playing D&D.
And they're playing D&D, and they're just kind of hanging out, and there's a really great scene that just it really touched me deeply, and there's something happens, and Gary just starts laughing. And then he admits, he says, I just forgotten how much I really missed you guys. And it took me back to the happier days with my little nerd gang.
Me too, yeah. And that is actually lifted from something that happened with me where I hadn't seen my friends in a long time. And yeah, I think you're talking about the scene where Mark and Pete just out of the blue continue their Xbox versus PS
yes
argument that's been going on for like 15 years. And these are the types of debates people have.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Trust
absolutely.
me.
When you roll deep with the nerd core.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I had, so that is actually from a life experience that I had where I hadn't seen these guys in like 4 years. And it's like, really? Are you arguing about the same thing? It was like I left on a Wednesday of 2004 and I'm back on a Thursday of 2009. And it's like, you haven't stopped arguing about what you were arguing about.
That's called passion.
Anyway.
Yeah, but those kinds of nerd passions, I mean, I really understand them. Every once in a while, usually on July 4th, I'll call up my friend from grade school, Bill, and we'll have Star Trek discussions, and we'll just argue. I mean, the tone is now different, because now it's more like we'll agree to disagree, but it's still there. The debates are still there. And those are never going to go away. And I look back on it now, and I'm thinking, I kind of hope that they never do go away, because it's not that that's the basis of our friendship, because it isn't, but it's just it's something that helps cement the friendship.
Absolutely. I mean, again, most of my friends, I have a few friends who sort of are able to walk between the two worlds of geekdom and sports, like they're obsessed over both. But most of them are like me, where you go, yeah, really? And these are the things we debate about. It's not an argument as much as it is, how can you like Enterprise? And here's why you shouldn't.
Ouch.
Yeah. And well, look, I'm it's not my favorite series. Although I love T'Pol. No, not T'Pol. Who was the Vulcan?
I think it is T'Pol.
T'Pol. She actually had some of the funniest stuff.
Yeah.
There was the one episode that I really do love, or there's two that I really like, but one is when Trip goes over to who's the engineer on Enterprise, goes over to the alien craft and he comes back pregnant.
Oh yes.
And that's really funny. And she had the best lines in that episode. Like she was like taking them down. Very, very funny.
Yeah, Vulcans make great straight people.
They really do. She is the Abbott of the Star Trek universe.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But yeah, those kind of debates, I mean, they're going to be there forever. And I mean, I've got friends on Facebook, and we just still bicker about certain Star Trek franchises or certain doctors or which Marvel properties. I mean, it's just nuts. But I think we're all now at that point where we're all doing it in good fun and realize, okay, so it's your opinion. It's a worthy opinion. I just don't share it.
Yeah.
Well, and also, don't you think part of it is, I mean, for me at least, I don't know, well, maybe not consciously all the time, when we were growing up, especially, us three were older. When we were growing up, it was sort of a secret,
Pretty niche.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we won.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to call it a culture war, we certainly won it.
Yeah.
When you look at how widespread it has become now.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one of the nice things. And I think, going back to the book, I think it's one of the reasons why when I first heard about it, I was immediately taken with this idea of this character who goes by the code name, the Geek, and yet he has a rather, shall we say, colorful life.
He does.
Yes.
Yeah,
So tell us about the book that you can tell us. Tell somebody why they should read The Geek, other than the pop culture and the geek and nerd references and all of that.
Because my Hyundai needs new brakes.
Okay. Well, there it is.
So thanks, everybody. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. So I mean, look, if you were, this is a couple of things, and I hope this sounds sincere if I can fake it. It really is a love letter in a sense to everybody who ever got a swirly.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or was the other. It is one of those things that, you know, if you ever felt like an outcast, if you ever felt like the bullying would never stop, and hopefully, you know, and it's twofold. I think it is, I'm not saying go out and murder people unless you're licensed and are approved to do so. But it is, I think, sort of very geek empowering in the sense of, here's a guy who in any other situation most likely would have ended up, you know, and I talk about this in the book a little bit, before he knew he was going to go into this life, he was contemplating engineering or I think mathematics, and that was the life he was going to live. And
he'd still be wearing a pocket protector today.
In a pocket protector, picking out his new slide rule, although I'm sure nobody uses slide rules anymore.
There's a flashback.
Some people don't even know what a slide rule is.
Wikipedia people.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But it is, I think if you've ever felt that way, if you've ever felt, you know, weak and you'll never be able to be strong, this, for all the good and bad in it, here's a guy who, through circumstance and will, becomes everything he never should have become, and to the point where not only in this new life as an off the books assassin for the CIA does he take the name that haunted him. His last name, I should tell people listening, his last name is Geeky, and every bully in high school called him Geeky, and he was called a geek. And when he becomes an assassin, he's allowed to pick his code name, and he chooses the Geek.
So
and
he's taking it back.
He's taken the name back, so that it's almost like it becomes like a totem,
an empowerment.
Yeah, and if you are a bad person, if you are in the know, and you hear the Geek is coming after you, it's what we like to call a brown trouser moment. I mean, you're scared, and he loves that. He loves that he was able to take this phrase, this name, and turn it into a death mask. And if you've ever had a fantasy of doing that, it's hopefully a good fun read for you.
Yeah, it is kind of dark, and it is a bit violent and bloody.
Yeah,
but I don't think that it's gratuitous in the sense of being gratuitous. So some of the characters get a little gratuitous, but
well, Gary doesn't. As I think back on it,
he's not. Yeah,
I mean, even though he does some pretty violent things, it never came off as overly gratuitous. Schmidt, on the other hand, but I think maybe that's a writing technique to help us feel more sympathetic towards Gary's cause.
Separate the good from the bad.
Exactly.
And also, so people understand, I mean, Schmidt isn't a sociopath. Schmidt's a psychopath.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so you sort of need these things. I will say, this novel led to the most uncomfortable conversation I've ever had with my mother in my life, who I warned repeatedly, please don't support me and read this book. And she couldn't help herself, and she read the book, and it was a weird conversation. She
says, "Jonathan,
she's like,
can we talk?"
Yeah, I read the book. Yeah, what'd you think? Well, it's very good, but it's very violent. Yeah, Mom, I told you not to read it. It's really violent, and there's sex in the book. Well, I know, Mom. That's why I didn't want you to read. Well, how much pornography do you watch? I don't know. It was very weird. It's like, well, okay, but I don't think your Aunt Mary should read this. I said, absolutely not. And of course, Aunt Mary did end up reading the book.
Oh, dear.
Of course.
And my aunt, she's so sweet. Hello, my love. Hi, Aunt Mary. It's a wonderful book. Thank you. You didn't think it was too violent? Oh, no, I like that sort of thing. We're like, oh, all right, excellent. So
okay.
There you go. And she's older than my mom, so it was but it was a weird conversation with my mom, who at first her reasoning was, well, I've read all 50 Shades of Grey. And I said, first of all, don't ever that.
Yeah.
And your son didn't you have to look me in the eye. You don't have to look the person who wrote 50 Shades of Grey in the eye. And so, yeah, it was, but the violence, hopefully doesn't come across as gratuitous in the sense of it's just there to be there. It's important that it's there.
Exactly.
Because Gary lives in a violent world. And Gary's the least despicable person in a book filled with despicable people.
Exactly.
In fact,
Yeah.
I remember thinking as I finished reading the book, I just thought, I really would love to know someone like Gary, or if Gary really existed. I mean, I just go up and give that guy a big hug because I think he's just such an awesome guy. And yeah, I did see a lot of myself. I think anybody who has ever felt disenfranchised or picked on as they were growing up, they're going to see some of themselves in that character and feel an enormous sense of validation.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that because, we were all that guy.
Yeah.
We were all that guy. I mean, I was the kid who the neighborhood kids would take your bike and they would make fun of you and they would, do these things that back then we just called bullying and you were told to suck it up, which I did with a very stiff upper lip as my British side would allow. And I think most people have experienced it. Even if you were not into comic books or science fiction, we've all at one time felt maybe disenfranchised. And if you haven't, congratulations, you were the guy making us all feel bad.
Exactly.
Yeah, you were that guy.
You were that guy. So live with that. You were Nelson. There's a character named Nelson.
Oh God. What a despicable
I've
human being.
known my Nelsons in my past, and so
our Nelsons, everything works out as it should be for the most part of the.
Yeah. So let me hit on one thing before we kind of wrap this up a little bit. Number one, we want to thank Patricia Chica for putting us together and sending us to you and sending you to us.
She's awesome.
She is really awesome. And number two, it was interesting. Your little the questions that we sent to you and you sent back said that you are a friend of Robert Palmer, and we thought I Am Alone was a
fabulous movie.
It was great.
Yeah,
so.
Rob. I have known Rob because I'm old and this water is spicy.
Where's my freaking walker?
This is Matlock. I've known Rob, I think, since 2000, and Rob has always been quite the industrious entrepreneur. So I used to do stand-up comedy professionally. And so 16 years ago, Rob had come up with the idea of he would stand in the back of the comedy clubs. And then there were comedy clubs like, you'd have a set at the Improv, but then there were the not so comedy clubs where you want to go test out new material that no one's going to see. And Rob decided, I don't know how, that he was going to set up a video camera and record comedian sets and then sell them to the comedians so we can watch it like a game film.
Wow.
And that's how I met Rob. And
interesting.
We quickly realized we were both massive dorks. and we've been friends ever since. And so, for everybody listening, go listen to the podcast with Rob that was like last month? Did you guys do it?
It was in December.
Yeah.
It was 1st of December, yeah.
That was episode 50.
Yes.
And Rob, made an amazing film for the budget that he had and really put a lot on the line. And I think, deserves a lot of credit for pulling that off.
Yeah.
And getting a guy like Gareth to do the film.
Gareth
David Lloyd, who is also one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in your life.
Absolutely.
A mensch, as my grandfather might say, but with a Russian Jewish accent.
Yes.
And so I've known Rob for a really long time. And Rob is actually, I call him the bro host of the little podcast that I do. And it's really, the podcast is called Stuff and Stuff because two morons talking about things they don't know what they're talking about, just a little wordy. and it's just me and Rob sitting around being.
It sounds like us sometimes.
Sometimes.
Trust me, you guys are so much better at this than Rob and I are, and we're just it just at least we came back to the topic every now and again. Rob and I will sit down with a topic, and it's within 30 seconds. It's just
It's someplace else.
it's just, everything goes pear-shaped really, really quickly. I hang out with Rob all the time. You know,
Cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
We had a great time talking to him and Mike. It was great. I don't know if he told you or we put in our episode that we were sitting outside on the patio, 1st of December, outside around a table in the courtyard of the hotel, and that's where we did the interview.
Oh, that's cool. I did not know that.
It was incredible. It was a lot of fun.
It was one of the most enjoyable, and I don't even want to call it interview because it wasn't. I mean, even though we did get to do a little bit of Q&A, it was mostly just conversation, which is all that I wanted.
We practically dragged our entire studio down there.
Well, and Rob and Mike both, it from sort of different sides of the same coin in the sense that they both have a near encyclopedic knowledge of film, different genres, but Rob especially. I mean, Rob has a real passion for film. Like, I'm happy just watching it.
Yeah.
And he'll go, "Oh yeah, that was directed by so and so," and the cinematographer. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know."
Okay.
I just
liked it.
I still want to see Rob finish his Halloween CO2.
Yeah.
I desperately want to see that made.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've just got a couple of last things. Now, going back to the book really quickly, just one last question about the book, and that is the way that it ended. Clearly, that was the most open ending that I've ever seen. In fact, I kept flipping back and forth, like, no, there's got to be more pages to this. It's safe to assume that you've got more kind of like percolating in your brain as far as, further adventures of Gary Geeky.
Well, yeah. There is another organization in the book.
Right.
Let me guess. The Family?
The Family.
Ha!
That is sort of a private organization. This happened when I scrapped the screenplay and started writing the book from scratch. There's a character named Marion Stillwater and Jasper and the people in the family. That was actually from a completely different story that I had written.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah. Originally, none of that was in the TV version or the film versions of The Geek. But since Marion and that story was so much darker, that when The Geek started going sort of hard-boiled pulp, it really seemed to fit. And again, Marion and the family, I have reams and reams of backstory on these people.
Oh, my.
Them intimately. And it
when
really
if we're ever down there, I want to see this.
Yeah, you got it. It's my entire office is just filled with legal pads of some of it's like 17 years old. Not on Marion, of course, but on other stories that I've written. I mean, everything I do, I flesh out beforehand. The next book. So the next book that I'm planning in this series is more focused on Marion.
But you do have plans for more.
I do.
Thank God.
I'm working on a couple of different things right now that, I had a screenplay that got optioned recently, so we're getting ready to go pitch that, which would be fun. I'm working on 2 new things that I'm planning on launching as Kindle serials.
Oh, cool.
And one is a modern day sort of sword and sorcery straight, epic. Epic's too big of a word, but it's a fun story. It's not nearly, it's kind of dark, but not nearly as dark as The Geek. And then the other one, and that's called Night Mage. And then the other one that I'm planning on launching that I'm almost ready to go with is literally just a straight up sci-fi adventure called Blood Rebellious, which the basic plot is it's a family, the Dolan's family, who are smugglers and pirates and thieves. And there's this huge intergalactic war, and they're brought in by the government and are told, help us win this war and all your records will be clean and whatever. And they find out that we've actually been duped, that we've been duped by another alien species.
Oh, wow.
We aren't the saviors of the galaxy. We are the enslavers of the galaxy.
Wow.
Okay, now I'm intrigued.
Interesting,
so they set out they set out to, quote unquote, fix the problem. And they set out to fix the problem the way a family of pirates, smugglers, and thieves would set out to fix the problem.
Yeah, why not?
And I'm having a lot of fun writing it.
Are you writing these under the same name?
Yes.
Okay, so because I know, like with our friend Jeannie Koch here in Phoenix, depending on what she's writing, she will actually take on different pseudonyms.
That's funny. I used to do that. Part of the reason I used to do that was legal reasons. I spent a lot of time doing what's known as script doctoring.
Yeah.
And part of it was really good money, but part of it was, especially the way I would do it, a lot of times they don't want people to know you're involved.
Right.
So you sign these non-disclosure agreements and you basically sign away your rights, but you get a nice piece of pay.
Yeah. So Alan Smithy was involved, right?
Right. Not, but you don't even get the Alan Smithy part.
Oh, they just pay you and you go away.
Yeah. It's literally. Yeah. And that was great because I love to write. And then I wake up 7-8 years later and I realize I can't tell people what I've done. I have nothing to hang my hat on.
Ouch. That's what I was going to ask you, if you could tell us anything that you've done, but since you've done that, you can't.
I can't. I mean, I can tell you the things that I've done that have gotten into development, but nobody knows what those are. Just like I said, you can make a very good living getting nothing done. You're not going to make Ferrari House in the Hills money, but like if you're like me, you make Hyundai condo in the valley money, and that's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
And I've had real jobs. Real jobs are not fun.
Tell us about it.
I keep hoping to win the lottery.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, I got plans for that lottery money. That's my 401k plan. Actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've always said, really, really rich people, they have a stock portfolio. Rednecks play the lottery.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always tell people being a writer is the closest thing to being a criminal without actually having to commit crime. Because you just feel like you're getting away with something. You're selling things that don't exist. You're selling thoughts and words, and everybody likes to feel like they're getting away with something, which is why I'm probably much happier doing this than I've ever been doing anything else. But long story less long. Sorry, I'm a babbler.
Oh, no worries.
Is as soon as these are launched, and I'm fleshing out the next book, which is going to be called Stillwater, and Gary is heavily involved, and every day. Like you guys, it really did. It choked me up a little bit to hear your passion and how much you liked it. And that's really the thing. Like I log on, I have a friend, been a writer for a long time, and he is, a 4 and 5-star rated writer, and he's got like 12 books out, and he stopped looking at Goodreads. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't care anymore, but I still kind of care. Right.
Right.
And when I go onto Goodreads, like I went onto Goodreads today, and there's another 5-star review from a reader.
Right.
And 3 more people have put it on their to read list. And it just makes you feel, it makes you feel good you got a good review. But these are the people who spent their money. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm so grateful that people are getting out of this what I was hoping they would get out of this.
Right.
Well, it is validation. And anytime you're involved in some kind of creative art, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it is painting, photography, writing, music, it doesn't matter. When you're doing that, you are literally carving out and putting on display a piece of yourself.
Yeah.
It is the most intimate form of expression that a person can imagine. And because it's so intimate and because it is so real to the creator, whoever that may be, to have it be snubbed is... It can be a very devastating thing, but on the flip side, when they love it, it's like exaltation almost.
Yeah.
And these people on Goodreads are incredibly passionate about, like, people not only post on Goodreads, they post on Amazon.
Right.
They take the time to do both. It's like, wow, that it's amazing. It's like right now I'm currently recording the audio version of the book, which never occurred to me to do, but I've gotten so many requests from people going, an audio version would be so helpful for me because I either have dyslexia or I'm a truck driver, or I spend a lot of time in my car. And so the fact that people who haven't read it but are reading the reviews and want to read it but can't read it want some way to experience this.
Right.
It's been really, really cool. Having said that, more bad reviews are coming. It's going to happen, but that's fine. If being a writer has taught me anything over the last 16 years is it happens. Don't take it too personally. And again, going back to Goodreads, if you go look at Goodreads, people give Arthur Conan Doyle Sherlock stories 1-star reviews.
Oh, geez.
So, it can be a tough room, man.
Yeah, we ran into a little bit of controversy the last couple of weeks, and had some people be mean to us.
Yeah, we've actually received our first hate mail.
Yeah, I do want to say we will have a review that will be a companion to this episode that will come out. So it'll come out the same day.
Oh, thanks, man.
We'll release the review on the same day we release this episode, which will be Monday. So.
Wow, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
Yes, we loved it.
We did more than like it. I mean, we really, I really, really, really loved it.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was just.
I knew you saying that is my new ringtone for my phone.
Far out.
The way he's a little bit dramatic sometimes.
A little.
Don't tell him how to be.
I'm not. He's just. It's just him.
But it's true.
For crying out loud.
But it's absolutely true. I mean, that is how I felt about it. I absolutely am in love with this book.
Yeah, absolutely.
And cannot wait. I mean, and if there's an audiobook version, I'm going to listen to that repeatedly. That'll go on my iPhone. It'll stay there.
Thank you very much. Yeah, again, like I had mentioned earlier, completely underestimated the project and overestimated myself. And I'm doing it myself. The publishers and I sat down and they're like, well, we can get this guy to do it and we can get that guy to do it. And then Anita from GM Books said, Jonathan, you have a really good voice. Why don't, and you wrote it, why don't you do it?
Exactly.
And I said, what's the real advantage there? And Bill, the owner of the company, said, it's cheaper. And I said, I'm in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And plus, the characters, their voices actually. So
exactly.
you could actually.
You get the right inflection.
Right, exactly. Someone else who has just read the book or is reading off a script won't have that.
Yeah.
So for anybody who wants to know more about you, do you have any kind of online presence? Are you on the interwebs, the Twitters, the Facebooks, the whatever? I mean, how can anybody learn more about you and what it is that you're presently working on?
Well, that's a darn good question. No, I am like everybody else, all over the interwebs. You can go to my website, which is www.jonathanlatt.com. And that's the website where I say it's everything you don't care about in one convenient location. There's links to my podcast and my Twitter and my Facebook and Goodreads and Amazon. And I am also trying, if I can find the time, going to be launching a YouTube channel at some point. But jonathanlatt.com will lead you to my blog and all that other stuff. And come follow me on Twitter. I always follow back. Unless you're a porn bot, which is weird, please stop following me.
I know.
So, yeah, what's all that about?
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's a new follower. Oh, never mind.
Whoops.
Yeah, look, who gets a porn bot follower and goes, oh, thank God, I had no idea how to find pornography on the internet.
Yeah.
So much, because this is the key to the door that I didn't have. But I always follow back, and I love hearing from people, and I love engaging with people. So stop on by the mothership.
Yes.
At jonathanlatt.com.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, absolutely.
We really enjoyed the book, and we encourage everybody listening to go out and buy The Geek. I'm sure it's available on Amazon and numerous other places.
It is, and it's available as a paperback or an ebook. Paperback only in the States, but the publishers are taking steps to make sure it's available as a paperback in Canada and the UK as well.
Far out.
But yeah, and guys, I had so much fun. I could geek out with you for hours and hours and hours, but thank you so much for having me on. I had a great time.
It was a joy.
Thank you.
Hey, this is Robert Palmer of I'm Alone the Movie.
And Michael Weiss from I Am Alone the Movie.
And you're listening to the Two Gay Geeks.
And that means it's time for the birthdays. Here are a few selected birthdays for February 8th through February 14th, 2016. February the 8th, Johnny Williams.
He's forever going to be Johnny Williams
Yes.
to you, isn't he?
Yes, he will. Even though he's 80 some odd years old.
And he's finally progressed to, I would say, more respectable, legitimate scores with Star Wars. I mean, I think he would love to leave the Lost in Space days behind him.
Yes. Also on February 8th, John Grisham.
What? Not Johnny Grisham?
Not Johnny Grisham. No, I didn't know. I never saw a credit for Johnny Grisham.
Because he wrote an episode for Lost in Space. Did you know that?
He did not. Silly. February the 9th, Tom Hiddleston.
And Tommy Hiddleston. No, never mind. Never mind.
Stop. And Carmen Miranda. I just put Carmen Miranda on there because she was such a larger-than-life character.
As were her hats.
Yes, exactly. And she died in 1957. And I remember in the 60s and the 70s, people talking about, everybody talks about Carmen Miranda. And it's like, oh my God, she was larger than life. Also, February 9th, Brian Greene, a scientist.
Author of The Elegant Universe.
Absolutely.
And one of the pioneer thinkers on string theory.
Yes. February 10th, Lon Chaney Jr., Leontine Price, and Jerry Goldsmith.
Ooh, wow. Man, between John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith.
Wow.
Wow.
Some of the two best
composers
of scores for movies, television, etc.
And when Jerry left us, I mean, that just, it left such a void.
It did. And we were just watching First Contact, and that has got to be the opening.
It's his finest moment.
Wow. Just brings tears to my eyes thinking about it. February 11th, Taylor Lautner. He was the wolf guy.
The wolf guy in one of those vampire teen movies.
Yeah, Hubba Hubba.
He is cute.
Yeah, he is cute. He's like 23 or 24 now. So anyway,
he's legal. Well.
February 11th, also Tina Louise.
Oh, Gilligan's Island.
Do you know, I looked at her list of credits. She has 85 credits. She's been working forever. In fact, there's something in post-production now, and she's like 82.
Are you kidding me?
No.
She's still working?
Yes.
Oh, well, God bless her.
She does something almost every single year since Gilligan's Island and the previous 15 years before.
You know, she's going to be another Betty White.
Yep. Go on forever. February 11th, also Leslie Nielsen, Ava Gabor, and Paul Bocuse. Paul Bocuse is the Monsieur Paul.
Oh, is he?
Yes, and Chef de France.
At
Disney World, he's the creator of Monsieur Paul.
Chef de France is just unbelievable.
Well,
but Monsieur Paul is actually the two Monsieur Paul is really amazing.
It is amazing. February 12th, Steve Hackett.
And we get to see him in May. I can't wait. I'm real excited. One of my favorite guitarists ever.
Yep. Also, February 12th, Michael Ironside, Franco Zeffirelli.
Wow. Just legendary when it comes to opera productions.
Yes. And Joe Garagiola. February 13th, Peter Gabriel and Peter Tork.
A couple of Peters.
Yeah. And Chuck Yeager. And Henry Rollins.
This is a guy that I unbelievably admire.
Oh, yeah. He says it like it is. If it's on his mind, he says it.
And he's also very funny.
Yes. And also on February 13th, Neil McDonough.
Damien Dark.
Yes. February 14th, Florence Henderson.
Oh, it's Carol Brady.
Yes. And Simon Pegg. And Enrico Colantoni.
I feel like watching Galaxy Quest all of a sudden.
Yeah. Also, Renee Fleming and Raymond Teller of Penn and Teller. Also, Fernando Sor, born in 1778.
Amazing guitarist.
Yes. I put that on there just for you.
Thank you.
And that is it for the birthdays this time.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's a party and you're invited. I'm Tim Galloway, your host and keeper of the Mouse Castle Lounge, your weekly dose of news, commentary, and interviews from the world of Disney, served up with your favorite tasty beverage. Drop by and see us at themousecastle.com or just look for the Mouse Castle on Facebook. It's good times and great conversations about the house that Mickey built. By the way, did you know that Walt Disney's favorite drink was a Scotch Mist? I'm more of a martini man myself. We'll see you soon at the Mouse Castle Lounge.
Go give a listen to our friends over at the Mouse Castle Lounge.
The Mouse Castle
Lounge, yes, as I butcher it. And what happens next? Oh, listener feedback.
More like epic feedback.
Epic feedback. We're not going to have a second section other than talk about maybe one film or one show. But
I tell you, the feedback here was so epic that after talking it over with you, it was decided had to trim it down because it was just way too big. I mean, just the feedback alone, as I was starting to put it into the script, it came to 9 pages.
Yeah, and we've edited some of the comments down.
Just a bit. So starting from Brian Arkle Weber, and he was writing in regards to the birthdays in our episode 58. He simply writes, "That's right, I share a birthday with Bill Mooney. I'd forgotten about that. That's pretty awesome. Glad you feel that way."
Yeah. Happy birthday to you, Brian.
Yes, and then we also actually going back to episode 56, we had a discussion about the TV series, the DC single camera comedy series Powerless. And there was a mention of possibility having Ambush Bug appear in that show. And we got a response from Crazy Joe, who says, "I love Ambush Bug so much. I would bleep my pants if I had to do that. Literally, I would bleep my pants if Ambush Bug ever made it to the live action screen. He was great in the final episode of Batman Brave and the Bold. The DC sitcom doesn't sound good to me at all, but if Ambush Bug shows up, I'm watching." And of course, I got to say, Joe, I love Ambush Bug. I think he was one of Keith Giffen's most brilliant creations. And the only thing is, if Ambush Bug is going to be in it, if he's going to be in an episode, then it has to end with Darkseid. That's all I'm going to say. And for you DC fans out there, you know what I'm talking about. And then also, Joe had this to say regarding Hellfire. And we talked a little bit about that, how Fox was looking to do sort of an X-Men type spinoff and call it Hellfire. And we all talked about it in episode 56. And Crazy Joe chimed in again and says, I should point out that I had postulated the idea of X-Men going back to Marvel. And that precipitated this comment from Joe. "I do not want X-Men to go back to Marvel. I really want X-Men to stay at Fox. At Marvel/Disney, X-Men won't get the love that it needs. Marvel is already releasing 2 to 3 Marvel films per year. There is no room for the X-Men. X-Men at Marvel means a lot less X-Men. Also, it decreases competition. Competition keeps these films great. Without Fox, it's just Marvel versus DC. I like knowing that we get films from 3 competing studios. Also, Fox has really done right by X-Men. The X-Men films thus far have been great. I know that you guys didn't care for X-Men 3, but I loved that one too." Gasp. "Fox has thus far made 5 X-Men movies and 2 Wolverine movies. Of those 7 films, 5 are generally accepted to be great films. That's a pretty good track record." Wow. Okay, you make a good point, Joe, regarding Marvel maybe not giving as much love to X-Men as we would like. I'm not going to share that opinion because I really would love to see the X-Men characters interact with the Marvel characters that we've got now. Does it mean less love for them? Possibly. Has Fox been really good to the X-Men franchise? 80% of it, I would agree. And you're right. Competition is a very, very good thing. But I think the Marvel Universe is diminished by not having the X-Men be a part of it, especially with Civil War coming out. Yeah, I know they managed to fix it around a little bit so that it's still very, very acceptable, and all the movie comic book fans are just thrilled with those who have seen it already. They love it tremendously. at the same time, I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing some of the X-Men characters interact with the Avengers. That could be a lot of fun. I don't, and I don't share your opinion. And besides, with the idea of knowing that we're going to get movies from 3 competing studios, I come back to one thing: Fantastic Four.
Yeah,
I know I'm being.
Well,
I know that's a low blow.
But they've done well with the X-Men films.
They mostly. They cannot seem to get Fantastic Four right to save their lives.
Oh well.
Now, regarding a little thing that we put out, we mentioned that the Appointment horror short film was available online, and of course, we interviewed Pia Thrasher.
Yep.
In our last episode. Yep. And good friend of the show, Tom Alred Gulbranson, said that was funny, scary, and exciting. Glad you liked it.
Yeah.
Because we loved
one of our
it.
Favorites, yes.
Absolutely loved it. And then I also posted a story about how Noomi Rapace was not going to be reprising her role from Prometheus into the upcoming movie Alien Covenant. And a friend of the show, Hamish Downey, wrote, "I thought she was great in the first film, but if it's set 10 years later, then I can see why she's not included. Pity, I thought she was an interesting character." I would agree. She was a very interesting character. But yeah, if they're going to be doing it 10 years in the future, God only knows what could have possibly happened. At least we still get David, or at least the head of David, played by Michael Fassbender. Now, because it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
We refer back to the what I think of as the harmless article that was written by Tom Alred Gulbranson when he submitted the article, "What Can We Expect from Robotech the Movie?" Somebody from our website left a comment.
There were several comments.
Well, there were several comments, but this one stood out, and it's from Nyoka, and I'm going to paraphrase. He said there's a correction to the article. First off, Robotech was definitely not the first anime to air in the US/UK. You can check here, and then he gives a hyperlink to a list of anime in the United States. Nyoka, you are correct. It was not the first. I remember seeing anime when I was a little child. However, I think the statement is more that Robotech was the first one that really broke huge worldwide.
Right.
That was the really, really, really big one. Now, next, and maybe you should talk about this one. We posted an article, and it was simply called "A Comment on Comments."
Yeah, and that article was basically, I'm just going to say it. We had a few comments on episode 58 where we interviewed Kevin McKeever. Some of those comments cast aspersions on various people, companies, etc., and I had to delete them. We are not in the business of bad-mouthing anybody.
We're not into mudslinging.
Not
like that.
If you have a question about what I'm talking about, and it's quite a lengthy article, and it refers to our terms of use and our privacy statement that we have on the website, and what we expect of people that use the comments section. And I think that's kind of enough said on that.
That's enough said on that. And we'll have the link for that in our show notes.
Yep. And we got a number of comments on that. Said, from Tom in Norway. He said, "Just let me know if I screw up." And I had to say, "No, it wasn't you."
It wasn't you,
It
Tom.
wasn't you, Tom.
No. And I know you're listening to this, Tom. You've been above board and you've been a gentleman.
Yes.
So you've done nothing wrong. We have your back. So don't
Exactly.
worry about it.
Yep. Also from Noelle Hughes.
My
who
sister.
is Ben's sister. She says, "Well done." And then from my sister, she said, "This just tells me your site is getting bigger," in quotes, "and you're being seen by more people. Keep up your good work. And if you get the opportunity to see Laser Team, Lazer Team, and review it, it is a top crowdfunding movie on Indiegogo, sci-fi. The viewings have been put on Tug. You should look into them as well. And it is going to be released later this month on YouTube Red. And this is one of my nephew, Andy's, high school friends that was involved in the production.
Well, that's far
I
out.
looked it up, and there is actually showing in Scottsdale sometime later this month. We might want to check it out.
We definitely want to check it out. I mean, as long as it doesn't conflict with our schedules or my
Yes,
schedule,
exactly.
I definitely think we should check that out.
Yep.
And then regarding our episode 58, where we were interviewing Kevin McKeever, friend Tom Albert Gulmerson, simply left a comment where he said, "When he said any and every aspect, I think I wet myself. This is gold, guys." Now, Tom, thank you.
Yes.
That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Yep.
And then Scott Linder, good friend of the show, wrote, "Yay! Thanks for having Kevin McKeever on to clarify things with the Robotech movie. I can't wait to see what they do with it." Well, neither can we. Now, Sean from Edwards wrote this. "Kevin really didn't bring any new information to the table. The way he kept repeating the line, 'Sony has the rights to make a live-action film based on all 85 episodes of Robotech and can approach it from any direction they want,' shows just how little creative control they have. Harmony Gold only owns the distribution rights to the most popular segment of Robotech, SDF Macross. So unless Sony strikes a direct deal with Big West, the Robotech movie cannot reuse any of the original content from Macross. That means that the Valkyrie/Veritech designs are off limits, that the SDF-1 design off limits. They can reuse the Americanized character names, but not the original Japanese names. And in the end, the content that comes to screen, assuming it ever does, will look more like the Michael Bay Transformers, having a passing resemblance to the original source content, but nothing more. Also remember how long Warner Brothers owned the movie rights and nothing came of it? Until we hear that production has actually begun, I will just regard it as more vaporware. I'm only going to address one thing on this, and that is the fact that Warner's, yes, well, they held the rights to the longest time and nothing ever came of it. I'm going to simply say it's because movie technology was not at a point where they could make it effectively. Yeah. And that's all I'm going to say on that.
So there's lots of discussion still going on Robotech, and if you want to be part of the conversation, you can be in the comments, or you can call on our listener line, 469-844-3357 or 469-TG Geeks, and you could leave a comment. You can also comment on the website, comment on our Facebook pages, but please be nice.
That's all we ask.
Otherwise, we reserve the right to delete or edit comments. So we do want to hear from you, but...
And your opinions are important.
Your opinions are important. And yes, the comments that we had to delete had a lot of good information, a lot of interesting background, and just historical information, but unfortunately they were interspersed with not so nice language, so we had to delete them. I apologize if I made somebody mad, but that's the way it is. So be nice in your comments. You know, it's okay if, as I said in my article, it's okay if you make some comment like the suits over at such and such network are idiots. I mean, that's kind of a general statement. But
and that comes off as opinion too.
Yeah, but when you start calling individuals' names and saying companies are evil, unacceptable. So I'm going to shut up now.
Hi, this is Ginny Koch, author of the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series from Daw Books, part of Penguin Random House, and you're listening to Two Gay Geeks.
Okay, I know the show's been going on pretty long because that was a very lengthy interview.
It was so exciting.
Oh,
it was
man.
incredible.
I hope people who listened to that interview with Jonathan had as much fun listening to it as we had having the interview.
Yes, please go buy his book. It's incredible.
There will be, there is a review that accompanies this episode,
and we're going to have a link to the book on Amazon.
For Amazon, yes, it's so well worth it. Check it out. So we don't have a lot of time, so we can't cover a lot of ground, but there is one thing we do want to talk about.
Yes.
A new show came on Fox. a couple of weeks ago, and it snuck. I mean, we knew it was coming out. We'd actually written stories about it on our website. It snuck under our radar. At least the first episode did, but we were able to catch it. We were able to catch it on Hulu, and then we were able to see the second episode, and that series is Lucifer.
Oh my God!
Wow!
What an incredible, fun ride!
That show is a hoot.
It is.
Absolutely. And for anybody who might come off, might think that that's really offensive from some sort of a Judeo-Christian point of view, don't. There's no need to be, because this is more. It's a rather light-hearted crime drama.
Yeah.
Very lighthearted, and it's because Lucifer himself, he does not take himself the least bit seriously. And
For anything.
And he's really, it turns out he's really, or at least the actor, he really modeled his character after Lucifer in Dante's Inferno. And what's fascinating is that here we are saying this, the fallen angel who has been, charged to guard the gates of hell by God himself. And he turns out he himself is not above some kind of redemption.
Yeah, it's interesting.
He starts helping out this one police officer because he's intrigued by her, and wow, hilarity ensues.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to where the show is going.
Yeah, they're clearly setting a table right now. Obviously, they can't go uber arc heavy because we're just now meeting these characters, and any good TV series will need to take the time to put the pieces in place. So it will come off as more procedural in the beginning with hints of an arc. But if this series is a success, and I have every hope that it will be, it will really take on a very strong arc-like tone in the overall scope of the series. And I'm very much looking forward to it because I think the actor, for one, who plays him, and that's Tom Ellis, is amazing.
Yes.
He has such a really beautiful, dry sense of humor. And for anybody who doesn't know who he was actually in a Doctor Who episode, Last of the Time Lords. So he's got some good genre cred, as I like to think of it. It's a fascinating series. And it's based on a Vertigo comic, too. A comic put out by Vertigo. Yeah. I love it. Absolutely love it. And I think we were both, when we watched the first episode, right when they finished the teaser, we were both kind of like, oh, wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's really exciting. I'm intrigued by it.
I'm very intrigued by it. I urge everyone to please go and check this series out. I would like
look at the first two episodes.
Yeah, I would really like for this series to be a hit. I know that a lot of people did not jump on board for Minority Report, and I'm very sad about that because I thought that was another series that Fox did, which had enormous potential. And now we've got Lucifer. This is another series that has enormous potential. I don't know why it is that for some reason, Sleepy Hollow notwithstanding, that's the only series that is Fringe.
Yep.
Those are the two that come to mind that were able to have some kind of success. But their other shows lately have not been doing too well. Yeah. And I want to see this one succeed in a very, very big way because it is a great deal of fun.
Yes, it is. And we have our usual follow-up items. Phoenix Comic-Con 2016, June 2nd through 5th, has continued to announce more guests every week. There's still hotel rooms available and memberships are on sale. Keep checking phoenixcomiccon.com for updates. It's going to be fun.
And for people who don't know who is scheduled to come to Phoenix Comic-Con, of course, we mentioned Alex Kingston, Jay Lee, Marv Wolfman of DC Comics legend, in my opinion. I met him years ago, and he's awesome. Gates McFadden has recently been announced. So the announcements are, they're already coming in. It's only February, people.
Yep.
Can you
a couple months to go?
And already two big guests that could easily knock it out of the park. And usually the uber big ones, not that Gates and Alex aren't, but the big uber announcements usually come in right like 4 weeks before Comic-Con takes place. So, hey, you know what? If you want to jump on this, do so now. I know that the super discounted tickets are gone. That's over now.
Yep.
But, I'd still check into it. If Comic-Con is anything like FanFest was back in December, this one promises to be amazing.
It's going to be great.
And also want to give thanks to the Doctor Who Fancast Guide, Doctor Who Talking Who on Twitter. They put their Fancast Guide out every other day, and you can read it by going to Twitter and following them at Talking Who. And then in the same vein, we wish to give special acknowledgement to the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News from Social Justice Scald. You can read the Arkle Times Post Dispatch News, which does recirculate our stories, by going to Twitter and following at Talking... I'm sorry, wrong one, at Arkle. My bad. At Arkle, A-R-K-L-E. And, of course, if you heard the name Arkle, you're wondering, is that the same Arkle as in Brian Weber? And the answer would be yes! And he also has a presence on Tumblr. He has a page called The Incorrect Star Trek Voyager Quotes. Check it out, but do so in the privacy of your own home, because a lot of it is NFSW, if you know what I mean.
NFSW?
I'm sorry, NS.
NSFW.
Yeah, not for safe work.
Yeah, not safe for some children either.
Yeah, that too.
And we want to give a special shout out
Special
shout out today to the Lucky Show.
Oh, chickadee.
My little chickadees, yes.
Yeah, they are the chickadees.
They are the chickadees, the twins. They are a hoot, and they give us lots of love on Twitter at Looky Show, and catch them on YouTube as Looky Show. If you like old movies and like campy reviews, this is the show for you.
It is a hoot. I
truly
love the twins, and I still want to interview them. Of course, we must give a shout out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, for allowing us to post our episodes on their page. The URL is facebook.com/groups/thegaygeek. And as always, a very special thanks to moderator Jeremiah Reeves for being an outstanding gay geek himself.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Well, at this moment, we don't have anything lined up for next week. But
no, but we didn't.
We didn't have anything lined up until Wednesday this week. So.
We're always talking about how we never know what's going to happen, and that's absolutely true. The interview with Jonathan was not on our schedule last week at this time. It happened in the middle of the week. So, hey, you never know. It could be something really outstanding and a lot of fun again.
You never know. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast page or episode. We're going to have several links on the page to articles, as well as comments and the book, The Geek.
Yes.
And to Jonathan's website. And remember, you can comment on our Facebook page or our website, tggeeks.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357 from TG Squared Studios. I am Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers.